Welcome back everyone, and welcome to part 7 of this tutorial series where we're creating this Sci-Fi Mech robot in Blender. So in the last part we had done the lighting, and then we had also started adding the materials. And so in this part we are going to add these other materials to the rest of the body. If you've been enjoying these tutorials and would like to help support what I do, I will have links in the description to my Gumroad store and my Patreon page and the YouTube memberships. And on my Gumroad store and Patreon page you can get access to 3D models and assets. You can get access to the tutorial files like this tutorial here, also procedural materials and other Blender content on my Gumroad and Patreon. And if you click on that join button right down there next to the subscribe button, if you join my YouTube memberships, then you'll be helping to support the channel monthly and you'll get some cool perks here on YouTube. And you could also send me a little tip by sending a super thanks underneath this video. So I do really appreciate all of your support. So on these objects, we have already added the base metal. So for most of these objects, I'm just going to be adding the darker metal, but then also some of these objects like the joints here, I'm going to be adding a blue metal. So in the previous part, we already added the materials for the head. So I can select the head object and I'm just going to press H to hide it, and then select the other head object and press H to hide it. So we just need to add the materials for all of these pieces here. So let's start by doing this neck piece right here. So I'm going to click on the neck piece. Let's also open up this side panel right here, and I'm going to go right over here to the material properties. Now on this neck piece, we have already added the light metal, but I also want to add the dark metal. So in the material slot, I'm going to click on the plus here to make a new material in the slot, and then I'm going to click on the drop down and we're going to add the dark metal that we already added. So I can now just press tab to go into edit mode, and I just want to select all the pieces that I want to add the dark metal to. So I'm going to hover my mouse over the large object and press the L key to select the linked vertices, but then I can press Control I, and Control I is going to invert the selection, so now everything else is selected. So then just click on the dark metal and make sure that is still selected and click on Assign, and now if I tab to go back to object mode, all those parts have the dark metal. So that object was pretty easy to do, so I can just press H to hide that object. Then I'm going to select this object right here, and this one I just want to have it be the light metal, so I can press H to hide it. And then I can click on this object right here, this other circular piece, and this one I just want to change to the dark metal. So with this light metal selected, I can just change the material slot. So I'm going to click on this drop down and just change it to the dark metal. And because the dark metal is the only one here in the slots, it's just going to force everything to be the dark metal in that object. And then I can press H to hide that. Alright, so now let's select this object right here. So this object is all of these pieces here which aren't mirrored on the front of the robot. And I'm first going to start by just switching everything over to the dark metal, so I can click on the drop down and I can add the dark metal. And then I want to add those glowing lights there, the glowing red lights. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, press the A key to make sure everything is deselected, and then just hover your mouse over the lights and press L. That will select the linked vertices, and I just want to add the red light to those pieces. So I'm going to click on the plus right here, and then we already made the light, so I'm going to click on the drop down and I'm going to add the red light. And then those are still selected. Make sure the red light is selected, and I can click on Assign. I can tab to go back to object mode, and that's looking good. So I can now press H to hide that object as well, and I can press Control S to save. So because the joint objects and the leg objects are kind of covering up some of the body, I'm just going to do the legs first and the joints, and then we'll do the body last. So I'm actually going to go right down here and we'll do the feet next. So I'm going to select the feet and tab into edit mode. So I'm first going to press A to deselect everything. Then I'm going to press the L key, and that is going to just select the linked vertices, and I'm just going to select all the feet. Then I can press Control I, and Control I is going to invert the selection, so now those bolts and the circular piece right there is selected. So then I want to add the dark metal. So let's click on the plus here, and then within this slot, I'm going to click on the drop down and we can add the dark metal, and then make sure the dark metal is selected, and you can click on the Assign button. So if I go into object mode, you can see now those bolts have the dark metal. And then I can press A to deselect, and then I'm just going to select this face, hold down the shift key, select this face, and then to select the faces in here, I'm going to hold down the shift and alt key and select right there, and then shift and alt and select right there. I'm also going to navigate right over here, and I'm going to hold down the shift key and just select all of these faces here. So for that little area coming out, and also right over here, hold down the shift key, and I'm just going to select all of these faces right there. And in here as well, so you can just hold down the shift key, select those 3 pieces, and then hold down the shift and alt key and select that loop going around the edge. So then I can select the dark metal and I can click on assign. And then I can tab to go back to object mode. Now for all of these joint objects, I actually want to add a blue metal. So I'm going to select this object right here and tab back into edit mode. I can deselect everything, and then I'm just going to hover my mouse over this object and press L and L just to select the joints. So I now want to create a new material, which is going to be a blue metal. So I'm going to click on the plus right here to create a new material. I'm going to click on the drop down, and I'm actually going to start by adding the light metal. And then I want to duplicate this to make it a different material. So I'm going to click on this button right here. That'll duplicate the material, and I can just rename it. So instead of it being called light metal, I'm going to rename this to blue metal. Okay, blue metal. So now I need to edit that material, but first let's just click on the assign button, and then that is now assigned to the blue metal. So I can tab back into object mode, and then let's click right over here on the shading tab so we can actually edit the shader nodes. And I'll just zoom in here, just kind of zoom into that joint there. All right, so now what I can do is I can just change the colors of the blue metal to actually make it blue. So to do this, I'm going to press Shift A. Let's go to the search here, and I'm going to search for a color ramp node, and I'm going to stick the color ramp right here before the base color. So I can now just change the colors to make it blue. So this side can just be black, but then this side right here, this white color, I'm going to click on the white color, and I'm going to make this a blue color, kind of a light blue. And the hex value that I'm using for the blue color, if you click over on the hex, I'm going to be using a value of 0070FF. So if you want to use the same exact color, that is the color that I'll be using. And then right inside here, if I press tab to go into edit mode, right inside here in the very center, I want that to be the dark metal. So just select that interface, hold down the shift and alt key and select that ring. And then I'm going to navigate right over here to the other side. So the inside there, and shift, select that face, and then shift and alt and select that loop right there. And then I can click on the dark metal and then click on assign. All right, tab to go back to object mode, zoom out here, and we can go back to the layout, and there we have it for the feet. So I can press the H key to hide that. All right, so I'm now going to select this object right here, and this is the other joint. So this is basically the ankle joint. So for this joint, I only want to have the blue metal and the dark metal. So most of it's going to be the blue metal. So let's just click on the drop down right here, and I can change everything to the blue metal. So I now want to add the dark metal. So I'm going to click on the plus here to add a new material in the slot. I want to click on the drop down, and I want to add the dark metal. So now I can press tab to go into edit mode, and I can just select the areas that I want to be the dark metal. So I'm going to hold down the Z button, go into the wireframe, and make sure you're using the face select. I can press B for the box select, just box select all those faces. Hold down the Z button, go back into the solid view. I can select this face, hold down the shift and alt key, select this face, and then I want to select those bolts. So just press L with your mouse hovered over those bolts, and I'm just going to select all those bolts there. I'm going to navigate over here and do the same thing. So press the L key with your mouse hovered over those bolts. We're just going to select all the bolts, and then also shift and select that face, and then hold down the shift and alt key and select that loop as well. And then inside here in all these little squares, I want that to be the dark metal as well. So I'm going to shift alt select that one, and then hold down the shift key, select those. So I'm just going to go all around here by holding down the shift and alt key to select the loop, and then just holding down the shift key to select those there. So I'm just going to go around here and do all this. You can pause the video if you want to. I'm not going to talk through the entire thing because it is very repetitive. And then alt and select that one. All right, keep on going there. All right, and then all the way over, select those ones and those as well. All right, and then I need to do the same thing. So I'm gonna select all those ones. It doesn't take that long if you know how to just quickly select them. And over here, select those ones and those ones. And right down here, those ones. And these as well. You can go into wireframe and make sure you got everything. So I still need to select those and those as well. All right, there we go. So now all of those little inner areas are selected as well. And I'm going to go back into the rendered view. So now that all of those areas are selected, I can click on the dark metal and then I can click on assign. So that's going to assign it. If I tab back into object mode, you can see that is all assigned and that looks really good. So I can now press the H key to hide that object. select. And then because we just did that one, I'm just going to navigate up here and I'm going to do the same thing right here. So this is going to be the same thing. So I'm going to click on the drop down right here and I'm going to make this the blue metal. And then I want to click on the plus here to add a new material. Click on the drop down and we're going to add the dark metal. And then again, I just need to go around and select all the same areas. So tab into edit mode, go to the face select, just select the face, hold down the shift and alt key, select that loop of faces. And then again, press the L key to select all the bolts. All right, and then right over here, I want to select all these little insets. So just select all those, hold down the shift key and select these two inner faces, and then hold down the shift and alt key and just select right there to select that loop. So I'm just going to go along there and do that for all these. So you can like just pause the video or whatever and just select all those. Or you don't even have to select them if you'd rather that they just be blue. All right, right there, and these ones as well. Go into wireframe, make sure those are all selected. All right, that is what I want to be the dark metal. So then we're just going to select the dark metal and then click on the assign button. All right, I can tab to go back to object mode. That's looking good. And then one more thing I want to do, just navigate right here, kind of back here, and I'm going to select this face in edit mode, hold down the shift and alt key and select that loop of faces. We can select the dark metal and then again, click on assign. All right, tab to go back to object mode and press H to hide that object. Let's press Control S again to save. All right, so I'm now going to select this object right here and I'm going to tab into edit mode and I just want to make the bolts be the darker color. So I'm going to press the I key, that's going to select the linked vertices, but then I can just press Control I. That's going to invert the selection, so now just the bolts are selected. So I can click on the plus here to add a new material in the slot, click on the drop down, let's add the dark metal, and then just click on the assign button. All right, tab to go back to object mode, that looks good. Oh, and also the beams in here, the beams have the dark metal and I do want that. So back in object mode now, I can just press H to hide that object. Now, if I select the armor pieces, I want the armor pieces to be the dark metal. So let's click on the drop down here. I can select the dark metal, but then I want these little pieces to be the light metal. So I'm going to tab to go to edit mode and then just press the A key to deselect. I can press L to select the linked vertices, navigate over here, and I actually need to kind of look inside. I actually need to go into wireframe so I can see this. So hold down the Z button, go into wireframe. I'm going to select this face, hold down the shift key and select that face. All right, so those little faces there. I can click on the plus again. Let's click on the drop down and we're going to add the light metal and then click on assign. So if we go back up into the rendered view, tab back into object mode, now those little pieces have the light metal, but the rest of the armor has the dark metal. So I can press H to hide that, and let's press Control S to save. And then I'm going to navigate right over here into where kind of the hip joints are. I'm going to select this object, and this one I can just click on the drop down and change it to the dark metal. And then I can press H to hide that. Click on this one in the middle, and then again this one as well can just be the dark metal and press H to hide that. All right, so let's do the upper legs now. So I'm going to select this object and then tab to go into edit mode, and I want to just add the dark metal to some parts. So I'm going to click on the plus here, click on the drop down. Again, we're going to add the dark metal and then just hover your mouse over this object and press L to select the linked vertices. I can then press Control I, that's going to select everything else. And then I'm going to hold down the shift key, select these faces, hold down the shift and alt key and select those loops of faces and do the same thing here. So select this face, shift alt and select that face as well. And that is it. So those are all the other parts. So I can now click on the dark metal and then click on assign. All right, tab to go back to object mode, and that's good. So I can press H to hide that. All right, so now we have this piece right here. So I'm going to select this piece and tab into edit mode. And then for starters, I'm just going to change all of the light metal to the blue metal. So with this material slot, change it to the blue metal. So I'm now going to select all the parts which I want to be the dark metal. So hold down the alt key, select that loop. Hold down the shift and alt key and select that loop, and then hold down the shift key and select the interface, and shift and alt and select that loop there. Then again, press the L key to select all of these little bolts here. So hover your mouse over the bolts and press L. And then right back inside here, I also want to shift select that face and shift and alt and select those faces. So we can now click on the plus here. Let's click on the drop down and we're going to add the dark metal and then again click on the assign button. Tab back into object mode. Let's press H to hide the object and press Ctrl S to save. Alright, so we are just down to the backpack and also the tubes and the body. This object right here, I'm going to select it. Click on the drop down, we can just add the dark metal and then press H to hide that. So I'm going to press the tab key to go into edit mode, press the A key a few times to make sure everything is deselected, and then I'm just going to hover my mouse over the large objects and press L and also L right here. So we have these two big pieces selected. Then I can press Control I. Control I is going to select everything else. And then there are a few more things I want to select. So like right over here, Shift select that face there and Shift and Alt and select that face there. And also let's navigate to the back and make sure that's selected. All right, that's good. And right down there, that is good. So basically everything else we want to be selected. So let's click on the plus here. And then let's click on the drop down. We're going to add the dark metal and then again click on assign. All right, so now all those dark pieces are assigned. And I did forget something. I want to add these parts in here with the dark metal. So just hold down the shift key, select these faces, and then shift and alt and select those faces, and then also shift, select that face, and shift select that face. Click on the dark metal again, and then click on the assign button. All right, go back into object mode, take a look at that. That's looking good. All right, so I want to add a separate material for the tanks. So I'm going to tab into edit mode and let's press the A key to deselect everything. So I'm just going to press the L key with my mouse hovered over those tanks just to select the tanks. So I'm now going to click on the plus here to add a new material on the slot. Let's click on new and I can just call this tanks and then make sure the tanks is selected and click on the assign button. So now let's hop over here to the shading tab and I'm going to press the period on the numpad to zoom into the tanks, and I can also tab to go to object mode. So I now just want to create the material for the tanks. So I'm going to start by turning the metallic value all the way to 1 so it's treated as a metallic material. Let's also turn the roughness down. So I'm going to turn the roughness to like a 0.35 so it's pretty shiny. And then on the base color, I'm going to make this pretty dark. So for the base color, if you want to use the same color that I'm using, you can go to the hex value and you can punch in 303030. So that is the color that I'll be using for the tanks. And then if I press the tab key to go back to edit mode, these little straps or the little connectors, I want that to be the light metal. So I'll press A to deselect. I'm going to press L and L and also L and L just so that those straps are selected, and then I can click on the light metal and click on assign. So now if I tab into object mode, you can see they stand out more because they're lighter colored. All right, and that is it for the materials on the body. So I'm just going to press H to hide the body object. And then I want to create another material for these tubes. So I'm going to click on the tubes and then I can just click on the minus button to get rid of that material. And then I can just click on new to add a new material to the tubes. And this material, I can just click on this and rename it to tubes. Now let's just make this a bit smaller. So for the tubes object, I want to take the base color and I want to make it a blue color, make it a pretty strong blue color and a bit darker. And then I want to make this look like it's plastic. So I'm going to add a little bit of subsurface scattering. So on the subsurface, I'm going to change that to like a 0.2, and this is going to allow a little bit of light to go through. And then for the subsurface color, I want to make this a strong blue color and make it a bit darker. And then on the roughness here, I can turn the roughness down to just like a 0.3, so it's a bit more shiny. All right, so that is it for the tube material. And so I can now press Alt H, and Alt H is going to unhide everything. And I can go right back over here to the layout. All right, so we are almost done. Now there is just one more thing that I actually forgot during the modeling process. So you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but if I select this object right here, I'm gonna press H to hide it. And I actually just wanna add a little pipe, which is kind of going this way and going over and then going up. Totally optional. You don't need to add that detail if you don't want to, but I do wanna add it. I do apologize that I forgot that part at the modeling process. And then I'm gonna select these objects and press H to hide them. Select this object, press H to hide it just to get it out of the way. So what I'm going to do is just take this pipe from the head object and stick it down here. So I'm going to select the head and I'm going to press tab to go into edit mode, and I can press A to deselect everything. Then I can press the L key with my mouse hovered over the pipe, and then I can press Shift D to duplicate, and we're going to stick this down here. Now I want to separate this into its own object, so I'm going to press P, and I want to separate by selection. And then I can just tab to go back to object mode. So I'm now going to select this object, hold down the shift key, select this object, and then I can press Ctrl J, that's going to join it to that object. And now if I tab into edit mode, I can just press the A key to make sure everything is deselected. And I'm going to hover my mouse over this object and press L to select it. And then I can press G to grab. I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to stick it right up here and just kind of stick it inside the robot right there. And then I'm going to press A to deselect everything. I'm just going to go right here to the vertex select. I can hold down the Alt key and select that loop of vertices. And then I can press E to extrude. I'm going to bring this over on the X-axis and just stick it in there into the robot. And then press the L key to select the entire thing. And I want to scale the whole thing down just a little bit and bring it back a little bit. Tab to go back to object mode, and I can press Alt H to unhide everything, so it is hard to see, but I do just like adding that little detail there. Alright, so I'm going to press Ctrl S again to save the Blender file, and I can also click on this button to hide the overlays. And so there we have it. So the modeling is finished, the lighting is finished, and the materials is finished. And so this is what the final Sci-Fi Mech robot is going to look like. So I hope you've been enjoying this tutorial, and thank you for watching. But we're not done yet, because in part 8 we are going to be applying the mirror modifiers, and we're going to be separating the objects and setting up all of the objects for rigging. Then in part 9 we're going to be doing mechanical rigging, and we are going to use an armature with bones, and we're going to be rigging the robot. And then in part 10 we're going to be animating a walk cycle and then render that out and compile the frames together to get the finished animation. So if you want to watch the next part, I will have it right up there on the end screen when it's released, and also the link will be in the video description. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in part 8.